So this is a program that was made available by a grant, and we'll take a look and see who gave us those grants. But to start with, I'm Sue Morton. I'm a master gardener with the University of Minnesota Extension, and I've also taken classes with Cornell Laboratory, Ornithological Laboratory, which is the premier birding school in the nation. They were online courses, but my Lord, they were tough. Really fun to take. This is Cindy Sabinski, who heads up the Bluebird program in this area, Bluebird program of Minnesota. And so tonight, we're going to cover a multitude of things. You are going to learn how to identify birds very quickly. We'll do a little bit of field marking and tell you what those field marks are. And then we'll play a little game. That's why you've got a bird. It's a nice bird right there. So, this is Flight Path, presented by the library and the University of Minnesota Extension. And the trouble with birds, and you can look down there at Flight Path and see that the Sparkle of Science and StarNet and HHMI are also those that helped produce this program and gave us wonderful resources to work with. So we will be having, and there's a handout on the table, 3 more programs. They will all be on Saturday mornings, and we'll look at those in a minute. They will be next week, flight patterns. We'll talk about migration, and we'll do some more bird identification, and probably go on an indoor birding scavenger hunt. So you can increase your knowledge on how to identify the different birds that might be in your backyard. How many of you watch birds in your backyard? Good, good, excellent. All right, the next one will be building a safer world for birds. And we will actually be doing that in the children's department of the library to keep those birds from striking windows. And the last one, we'll meet up at SMSU Nature Center, and we'll take a walk through the woods and across the prairie and see if we can find any birds, which will be really fun. If the weather's bad, we'll just reschedule it. But that will be 1 a month. So the last one's going to be right about when we're in the middle of migration, or the beginning, middle of migration. So, boy, who's honking their horn outside? All right. Theoretically, this slide says that we've lost over 300,000 birds, or 1 out of every 4 birds in the last 50 years. Now, when we say we've lost birds, because we lose birds all the time, we lose birds to natural death, whether they be, who has the sharp-shinned hawks? That's natural, for those sharp-shinned hawks to take the small birds. But birds die. There are songbirds, those little birds that you think about, the songbird. They live about 5 or 6 years if they get lucky. That's all they live. So that cardinal that comes back every year for the last 30 years, that's not the same bird. It's a different bird. We'd like to say it's the same bird because we love all the myths and legends about cardinals. You'll take an eagle. An eagle might live 20 or 30 years. And try to always come back and partner with the same partner and come back to the same nest, which is really cool because if you discover where that nest is, then at certain times of the year you can go out and follow through on it. Then you have parrots. They can live up to 80 years. That's why people who keep caged parrots and similar birds have to put their birds in their wills because people usually die before their parrot or their cockatoo dies. So they have to make sure their birds are taken care of. Crows, 10 or 15 years. So it kind of feels like, with the exception of those tropical birds, that the natural lifespan of a bird goes from a short, small bird to larger birds, generally speaking. So what we're going to do today is we're going to do bird identification. Oh, you're going to be really good at it when we get done too. Trouble with birds. We're going to find out why these birds are missing, why they are gone. As a matter of fact, there's I think 398 species of birds in the United States that are right now in jeopardy of eventually becoming extinct. And we need to know why that is and what we can do to fix it. So when we're talking about the trouble with birds and the loss of birds, we're talking about man-made issues rather than natural death. And then Cindy is going to share with you a success story about the bluebirds. So let's just start from the right beginning. You can identify a bird by its size. Can anybody tell me a really small bird? What's the smallest bird you've ever seen?
Hummingbird?
A hummingbird. Really tiny little bird. How about a big bird?
Sandhill crane.
Sandhill. Oh, anybody see sandhill crane? They're tall. They're big birds. Bald eagle, I heard. So, even though we can't see the exact size of this bird, and that's a wood stork, which you would find down in Florida. Do you think it's a big bird or a little bird? What do you think? What do you think, Claire? It's a big bird. It's a great big bird. It's about this tall. And in our nation, it nests in trees. If you go over to Norway or Sweden, you'll find it in chimneys nesting. But that's a big bird. So we can look at a bird in a tree and say, well, that's a really little bird. That's about 5 or 6 inches would be my guess. So I'm going to go to my field guide over here, and I'm going to look through, because they're all put together, all those little birds are together. And I'm going to look through and see if I can find some other field marks to identify that particular bird. So size is really important of the bird. Now, let's talk about size. Anybody know what this bird is?
Downy.
It's a woodpecker.
Yes.
Downy.
Downy or hairy.
Downy or hairy?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. How about this one?
That would be a downy.
That would be a downy? There they are together. There they are together. Can you tell the difference in size? Let me tell you how you tell the difference. These birds are in your backyard right now. They're in your backyard right now. You can tell by the size if you see them together. How often do you think you see those birds together on the same tree at the same time? Not very often. So you look out there and you kind of know that I want to write it down. I want to journal. I want to write down my birds every day that I see in my backyard. So their markings are all, their field marks are all fairly simple. And these are both males. Do we know why they're males? Because they have a red cap. Females do not. So we know they're males. So when I track birds, I keep a daily journal. And if it's a woodpecker, I indicate whether it's a male or female that I saw. So let's look at the one on the left is a downy, the little one. Look at its beak. Its beak is about half the length of its head. So here's his head, and his beak's about half that size. You see that? But we look at the hairy and look at his beak. His beak is the same length as his head. So if you get one of those birds out there and you don't have them together, and you say, I don't know if that's the big one or the little one, look at the beak. And you'll be able to identify it. Short beak, half the length of his head. Downy, long beak, length of his head. Is hairy. By the way, that hairy, and they both have really neat eyebrows. See the white stripe? It's called an eyebrow. All right, songs. I'm going to share with you. See this little logo down there at the bottom, Merlin? If you have a phone and you want to download that right now, download it. It's free. Merlin is free. And it will help you identify birds because you can go in to the app and you can put in descriptions like size and color, different marks. And it'll give you a general idea of what that bird might be. It might give you 5 or 6 different choices. But you can also go to song. And where it says song, You merely press that little button and it starts recording all the songs within the area and identifies those birds. I would say it's 99.9% accurate because all summer long I kept getting a long-tailed grackle in my backyard and I knew we did not have long-tailed grackles. So most of the time it's right. So let's give you a little example. Cindy, you got yours up?
Yep, I do.
Okay. I'm going to call up a very common bird that is in our backyards all winter long. And here's what this looks like. It's recording right now. And I'm going to call up
Dark-eyed junco. So it will pop up, identify what it is, and then if there are multiple birds, they'll continue to identify, and as they sing, then it'll be yellow, and it'll tell you that that's the bird that's singing. 'Cause when I
which
go
is
to
kind of neat.
yeah.
Now, if you're doing an official bird count, like the Christmas bird count, you can only use this as a backup. So if you're out there with Merlin and you're counting the birds, and that's a citizen science program that we do every year during the Christmas season. And it tells you that there's junco in the area, but you're not seeing it. You have to see it or hear it yourself before you can say, there's a junco, and count it. But just on your own, it's really kind of fun to take it out in the backyard because you can say, oh gosh, there's a scarlet tanager around here someplace. I'm going to find it. Go get my book and look it up and see what it looks like so you can go out and find it. Really easy way to identify. Let's do one more.
Oh, just a second here. Okay. Yeah, that was a chipping sparrow. the
I
second
did
one.
find out, yeah. That. Let's try a sparrow. It's going to be I know what I'll try. Let's try another real common back-end bird. You might even know this when you hear it. A lot of people know this bird song.
Northern cardinal.
Northern cardinal. Isn't that
And-
cool?
But is that the male? Because it shows,
Yeah.
rather than the female.
Pretty cool. So our birds sing for us. All right, so song is another way you can identify them. And we might do some of that next week. We might listen to more bird songs and figure out how to identify some of those birds. And usually people can learn, the best way to learn a bird singing is to watch the bird and listen to it sing at the same time. Birds don't just have songs, they have calls as well. Songs are usually for mating, for attracting the pretty gals to come in, and for mating, and the calls may say danger, 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 or follow me, I found food. There could be a lot of things that the calls indicate, but they're all different too. And if you go, National Audubon also has an app that you can download where you can play all those calls on it. So songs are another way. Now we get down to the nitty gritty. All the different parts of a bird. We have the crown. The crown might be a different color, and it might also be crested. It might always be crested and have feathers up. It might have feathers that lay down and come up as well. Right? So you can often see that and think, we'll use that as a field mark. They're called field marks because birders go out into the fields and the forests and look for these marks on birds. Look at the one that says rump. We'll find a bird tonight, but the rump is very important when we go on our little birding picture here. The tail. Not just that the tail is a different color from the rest of the body, which it might be, but see the shape of this tail? Some tails are straight across. Some are curved. And there are two birds that's very important, along with size. The Cooper's hawk and the sharp-shinned hawk look very, very similar in all their colors and their field marks, but there's two ways to tell them apart. Cooper's hawk is a big guy, sharp-shinned is a little guy. But if you're having a hard time with it sitting in a tree, one has a curved tail and one has a straight tail. Way to do that. We can look at the wings and where it's pointing to the wing. Not the whole thing. There's the breast, and to the left of the breast is the shoulder, which is part of the wing. All those parts could be the same color, or they could be different. And very often, right where it says wing and it points to, there's a stripe or two stripes on the wing, and those are called wing stripes. And those might identify a bird. A really good example would be the goldfinch. It has black wings with white wing stripes on it. The breast is this part up high, and the belly is down low. So we'll look at some birds tonight. You'll have to find birds that have certain color breast, and the belly is different. Or vice. Can you think of a bird that you always recognize by the color of the breast? What's a very common bird?
Robin.
Robin. We call him robin redbreast, don't we? So that's a really good example. Throat. We have a yellow-throated warbler. Guess what color its throat is? Yellow. Very easy to identify. The upper beak and the lower beak, and why do they separate that? Because that little bird we just listened to, the junco, at one point in its life, its upper beak is pink and its lower beak is a grayish brown. It has two different colors on its beak, which is a good way to help you identify that it's a junco. Right. Around the eye, you see that ring? And that's called an eye ring. Really strong identification mark, especially when you're looking at birds like warblers, which are really hard to identify. And in the fall, because they're really quick and they flit through the trees, and they're really hard. Stay there, so I can find some of those field marks. In the fall, the warblers lose all their color. In the spring, they're just gorgeous. You can pick up a field guide and look at those warblers in the spring, and you'll be saying, do I have those birds? I have a lot of those birds that come through here in May. They come back through in August to head south, but they've lost all their color. But they may still have an eye ring, which helps us identify. So we have all those different ways. See that undertail, coverts? Coverts is just another kind of feather. We have another woodpecker that it's one of the few woodpeckers that migrates, and it only migrates so far. And you see it more on the ground than you do in the tree, and it's called a flicker. We have yellow shafted flickers, and we had red shafted flickers, and we're right on the border as to where those birds are. Most of the red shafted flickers are all west of us, and we usually have yellow shafted flickers. But where it says undertail coverts, under that top, that tail, that is all yellow. And when it goes up to fly, we know it's a yellow shafted flicker instead of a red shafted flicker. So look here, woo, we got a crown stripe. Goes across the crown, like that. We have that eyebrow stripe. All things to look for. You can see the eye ring. See where it says lore, L-O-R-E? That's the space between the chin and the eye. And sometimes that's a different color on there. We have the eye line, which is different from the eyebrow. The eyebrow is up high. Note the eye line starts at the corner of the eye and it works its way all the way out, like this. We have whiskers right by the lores, and they really aren't whiskers. They're just feathers of different colors sometimes. And that's really cute. We have that throat patch again, and we have the upper and lower beaks. And there's another view of the eye ring. Not all eye rings are perfect circles. Some of them are half moon, or maybe a partial under circle, which is a real detailed way. That's a little ruby crown kinglet down there. So it has a ruby crown, but you can't, they're about this big. And they love to live in evergreen trees, and they're here all winter long. They have a little kip, kip, kip sound. They're really hard to find because they hide from us. So you can't see its red crown until it starts to move. And then it kind of flitters up a little bit. And you can tell it's red crown, a ruby crown. There's also a gold crown. All right, feet. Really important way, easy way to identify a bird. Let's look at the top left corner of those feet for perching, because they have to grasp a branch in a tree, right? Who do you think has perching feet? What birds do you think have perching feet? Robins? Hawks have perching feet. They have a combination of feet. That's a really good answer. So all those birds that are able to grasp the tree branch and perch and stay steady have perching feet. Feet for walking. Generally a fairly good-sized bird, and probably not a water bird, but a shore bird, a bird that lives along the shore, and they have walking feet. And notice they only have 3 toes. So an ostrich, guillemot, an emu. Claws for climbing. Those are woodpecker feet. Plus there's a couple other birds that have claws for climbing. So if you see the bird climbing up, you'll be able to see that it can grasp that tree and climb. We have birds of prey feet. So not only do birds of prey like owls and eagles and hawks have perching feet, because we see them perched all the time, don't we? Sometimes they're standing on something up high, but a lot of times we see them perched in a tree. But they also have talons, very sharp. The talons come out, they might be tucked in, and they come out, and they can grasp their prey. And then they can hold it down while they rip it apart and eat it. We have clinging feet. This is another bird that most people don't ever see. The chimney swift. The chimney swift cannot land or perch in a tree. And what they do is they go down into chimneys or open spaces, similar natural spaces, and they cling to the side of that space. A lot of times people think they have bats in their belfry, but they really have chimney swifts. And when a chimney swift flies, it looks like a cigar flying.
Yes.
Looks very much like a cigar flying. We have leaf walking feet. So this, I can't think of any birds in the United States, but the chacuna is a tropical bird, and it has to forage through very deep, deep leaves where it lives. So it has to be able to pick up and shake those leaves off. We have 2 web-footed feet. The cormorant, everybody's favorite water bird, is on the left, and a duck is in the center there. And the cormorant is not the greatest swimmer. As a matter of fact, it has to get out and dry its feathers because it's not waterproof. But the duck is a really good swimmer. And the duck needs to be able, some of those ducks, to get down low and skim the water, and others are diving ducks. So having those webbed feet are really, really nice. And then we have the flanged feet. These are kind of scaly feet, and the actual skin extends down and the toes are pretty short. That's the foot of a coot, an American coot. You see that black bird out on the lake, and it's looking like this, and it doesn't seem like it's really moving real well. Well, it doesn't have webbed feet to swim. It has those flanged feet because it's on land as much as it's in the water. So it needs double duty. Beaks, last one. Let's go. Insects catching, like fly catchers and warblers. They have short little pointy beaks to catch the insects. Grain eating. Would you call that cone-shaped? A lot of the birds you see, the sparrows that you see, the finches that you see, have grain eating because they need to be able to pick up that grain and crush it to eat it. It's really interesting that you can look at a beak, you can tell what a bird eats. Coniferous seed-eating birds. Guess what? That bird is called a crossbill. Do you know what it eats? Pine cones. Therefore, it has that crossbill that it can rip those pine cones apart. So if one day you walk out and you see all your pine cones underneath and kind of chew it up, you might be lucky enough to have crossbill in your tree. They seem to hang out in cemeteries for some reason, but I think that's because they have a lot of evergreen trees. Scything. A lot of these are birds that are shorebirds, and so they go along and they put that beak in the water and they scythe or they sift out what they want. We have the chisel. Who do you think that is? That's woodpecker, right? And then we have the pelican with the deep. Have you ever watched the pelican scoop? Really fun. They open that great big mouth and scoop it all up. Surface skimming. So that would be an oyster catcher that they're picturing there that we don't have here, but if you go to the ocean, you're pretty likely to see one. And they swim down and open their beak. See how long it is? And the bottom part is longer. It's like a shovel. And they scoop in everything they can to find what they want. Nectar feeding. That's the hummingbird. It could be curved, it could be straight. Did you know that hummingbirds and woodpeckers have tongues?
Yes.
They both have tongues. So, filter feeding, again like a flamingo, they take everything in and what they don't want runs out. Aerial fishing would be like belted kingfisher that you might see up above the water a few feet, and he dives down and grabs, spears himself his fish. And pursuit fishing is that they chase after their food. And a scavenger doesn't have any feathers on his face.
Oh, our
No
favorite
feathers on
bird.
his face. We'll talk about that a little bit. And he doesn't kill his food. He lets somebody else do that, and he cleans up the mess. So that would be like a turkey vulture. Different vultures that do that. So all they need to do is be able to rip that food apart. He's got a nice pointy beak. All right. Ooh. There we go. There's a good raptor bill. That is a bald eagle. So he's able to put those talons down and to take that beak and just rip things apart. Rip them apart. It's pretty cool, isn't it? He's really neat. All right. So another fabulous resource besides Berlin is the same, Cornell Lab. The website is called All About Birds. And it is a wonderful website, very user-friendly, and it helps you identify birds. You can just put in sparrows. If you say, I think that's a sparrow, and it'll pull up every sparrow on there. So, next time we'll do flight patterns on Saturday, February 21st, do a little habitat and behavior and migration study, and do an indoor scavenger hunt. I'm going to save that picture. Is that familiar? Anybody know where that is?
Yep.
All right. So I want everybody to stand up. Let's make a circle right here. So that we've got our bird. Just like this. We're going to see how much you learned in that little step. So my bird has a conical shaped bill, shaped like an ice cream cone. Throw them out in the middle, face up. I want you to look at your bird and see if it has a cone shape. If your bird has a cone shape, hold it up. See if there are any down here that have a cone shape. Come on in and see if you can find one. Mine has a cone shape. Mine has a cone shape. Close, not quite. Any down here have cone shape? Come on in and see what you find another one. I see 2, 3. Pick it up. It's all yours. Good job. 21. Grab 21. Cone shape. Let's look at those birds. What else do we know about this bird? I know that he has a word we didn't mention. He has a mask. Oh, she has a mask. She has a mask. See that mask around her face? What else does she have on top? She has a crest on her crown, doesn't she? She does. Anybody know what this bird is? Female northern cardinal. She's just as pretty as the guy, but a little bit different. All right, I want you to find a bird that has a solid wing color that's different from the rest of the body. Solid wing color. Hold her up. This one, the wing color is different from the rest of the body. Let's grab, oh, how about this guy? How about this guy? Up here. Anybody know what this bird is? Look at that. It's all red, except it has a black wing. It's a scarlet tanned. Birds that are here in the summer. It eats insects, so its beak is not cone-shaped, but it's a little smaller and pointier so it can grab those insects. Black wing, yellow body. See this bird? A lot of people call these canaries. They're not. That's goldfinch. What else does this goldfinch have? It has a black cap. It has white wing bars, right? And it's perching, so it has perching feet. And it has a cone-shaped bill that's orange. Look at all those field marks that bird had. That if you wrote all those down and then put it into an app or went to your field guidebook, you would be able to identify that bird. This one has a brown wing. It's an indigo bunting. Isn't that beautiful? Gorgeous. It has also what we call a general bill. The crow has a general bill too. It's not short and pointy. It's not cone-shaped. It's kind of both. So this bird can eat berries and insects and seeds, all of them. And he's a percher, but you see him on the ground as much as you see him in the air. Remember the lores that were kind of in this area between the eye and down? He has black lores. You can see him above his beak and going down here. And that's an indigo bunting.
Where do you find them?
Camden is full of them in the spring. They will come through your backyard, put out. The best thing to raw them are live mealworms, but they'll eat the dry mealworms too. Yeah, and they usually come through in May, and then they're going to go find a forested area to be in. But often I've gone out to Camden, and that first turn in to go back to the group camp, I've seen that whole ground covered with buntings, literally. On that really gorgeous, gorgeous bird.
Are they sometimes more turquoise color and more of a brighter?
They can vary, there's kind of an iridescence to them, and sometimes they look really dark. But that has to do with the iridescence of the feathers and the light that's shining on them. And it also can have something to do with what they eat. So does anybody have a bird that's climbing up or down a tree? Up or down a tree? I would say that's pretty important. Yours is going down. Yours is clinging. Mine is going up. Right? Yeah. So, this bird has what color cap? What color breast? White. It's kind of a gray blue. Sometimes he looks blue and sometimes he doesn't. If you look way down here on the lower side, he's kind of a different color, isn't he? Now he's going down, he has clinging feet. And 99% of the time, that bird walks down the tree. And he pecks at the bark and lifts it up and gets the insects out. And that's called a white-breasted nuthatch. We also occasionally get a red-breasted nuthatch. And they're pinker and they have a black cap, but you don't see those very often around here. My bird, can you tell me some field marks? What's his beak look like he eats? Short and pointy. What do you think he eats with that? Insects, absolutely. Is he one color or multicolors? Multicolors, isn't he? He's brown with some speckles. Look at his eye. What does he have? What does he have above his eye? He's got a white eyebrow, doesn't he? He has a white eyebrow. This is a little tiny bird. This bird's about this big. Likes to be in trees that are close to water. It has a white chin, a white breast, white tail coverts, white belly, and brown with some striations on its back. It's called a brown creeper. Brown creeper. Is that a cool bird? Cool bird. Does anybody have a bird that has a very long beak? Anybody have a bird that has a long beak? Anybody else have one that this one has a long beak? Anybody else? Not quite. That's Mr. General. Yeah. Like it. So over here, I'm going to take him and I'm going to walk him around. How big do you think this bird is?
It's big.
It's big.
It's like this.
This is called a pileated woodpecker. You don't have them in your backyard usually. They like to hide in the woods. I've lived where I live for a little over 30 years and I have one in my backyard.
I have one at our lake home.
Yes.
I have 5.
Awesome.
Which is very unusual because I've heard, it had to have been a family, because they're kind of territorial is what I've heard about them. But I always have 2 that come back every year. Very shy.
And they're
And it's
big,
because
I
I
wouldn't
have
say
had-
big. They're
They're
big birds. They're this big.
I have their call.
They're this
I
big.
don't remember.
Right. You could go to Ramsey Park, and you know they have that new paved path that's really nice. You can walk that path from one end to the other, and 50% of the time you'll see a bird. They like to hide in the deep woods. You go out to Camden, and I've taken a walk back by the Rangers' house, the trail that goes to Lynn, and had 3 at one time back there, but they're really kind of hidden and protected. And they're kind of neat woodpecker. All right, our other one. Boy, he's got a long beak. Does he have an eye stripe? He does. Look at his eye stripe. He has a long beak. He has an eye stripe. Cool. What kind of feet do you think he has? Left. No, I don't know. But he's in Actually, he's in the water. That's a good guess, though. He walks in the water. Can you see his eyebrow? He walks in the water, so he has walking feet. What does he use that big beak for? Spearing the fish.
But I once sent you a message. Is this a gray heron?
That's a great blue heron.
Great blue heron.
And there's a little blue heron.
And I think
There's a green heron.
That's what I sent you a picture of. I'm like, what is this? And you messaged me.
And we have great blue herons around here. You'll see a very similar bird that's all white. That's an egret. It's a white egret.
Okay.
So, and they're along the shoreline. They wade in. They love to spear the fish. And they're really gorgeous birds. When they fly, you can look up in the sky, and their legs are straight behind them and their wings are out like this when they fly. And we'll talk about flight patterns next week and how you can look up in the sky and tell by the way a bird is flying what it is on there. So let's identify the rest of those birds and sit back down.
Yours is, that one there is an interesting bird.
This one? This is one too. Let's see, does anybody have a bird very similar to this one? Yes. All right. So, one of these is a purple finch, and this is where color comes in. The purple finch has the color, the really rosy color that goes all the way down its head into its body. And the house finch has less red and lots of striations on its chest. Lots of little stripy things on its chest. So this is the purple finch, which you will see, and you might see 2 or 3 at your feet at a time. This is the house finch. The one with all the color is the male. Males always get the pretty colors. And the other is the female. Conical shaped bills. Perching birds. You'll see 25 or 100 of them in the backyard time during migration. And you'll see them all winter long. You'll also see purple finches all year long. So, Cindy's got the bluebird. Chest, belly, wings. Believe it or not, he has a partial iris. All right, pointy beak, we did pileated. Great horned owl. All right, he's pretty good size, about this size. These really aren't horns, they're feathers. They're feathers. Owls are phenomenal to play with. Remember we talked there'd be a bird that had a rump that was really important? This is the yellow rumped warbler. This is the first one of the first warblers, that and the yellow warbler, that will come into your yard in the spring. And it's very colorful. See his yellow rump? Right there.
Is he gray or blue?
Is he gray or is he blue? Yes.
Okay.
Okay, but mostly blue. With some other marks on there. Did we do this guy? We did him. We did him. The mallard. What's the most distinguished identifying mark on a male mallard? The green head. Bingo. How do we identify a female mallard? Ducks are terrible.
They're
Especially in the fall. Huh?
They have a little tiny bit
They're
on
plain,
but they have a titch
brown, they have a titch blue
on their wing.
on their wing. Female does. Aha! This is our vulture. Isn't he cool? He's a huge bird. Have you ever seen vultures along the road? Big birds. They clean up for us. When I first moved to Minnesota, the DNR came out and picked up all the dead stuffed animals in the road. Now we let the vultures take care of it. What's that one? Hold him up.
Do you call him a turkey vulture or
Yes,
just
he's a turkey vulture.
Oh, okay.
There are black vultures, there's a variety of vultures, but the turkey vulture is the one that we have here. American bald eagle, that's a mature bald eagle. All right. A lot of times you'll see a bird and you'll think maybe it's a hawk, but it's too big for a hawk. So, Jack, I gave Jack this tough one. Jack is actually holding a red-tailed hawk. You've got a red-tailed hawk too. And this is a mature red-tailed hawk. And this is an immature red-tailed hawk. So it takes those big birds a long time to get what they need. You will see an immature bald eagle looks very much like this. Very much like that. Very much like that.
They're 7 years old.
All right. What's your other one? Did we get it? Oh, everybody knows this bird. How do you identify it? When it flies into the yard. How do you know it's an oriole?
It's orange.
It's orange and black. So mostly by color, right? Plus it's that. Oh, are you ready? What's that?
Bird.
That's a blackbird. It's a starling. And you think of them black, but if you look real closely, they're speckled.
Yeah, they are.
Okay. One of the things to look forward to get excited about a starling is what's called a murmuration. And I'll show you a video of that next week. which are really kind of cool. Can we get everybody's birds? Claire's this one. White eye ring, red breast.
Walking legs.
There's a lot to pay attention to. Now, this is general beak as well. What do robins eat?
Worms.
Worms. What else do they eat?
Berries.
They eat berries and berry seeds, but they seldom, will you ever see a robin as a bird feeder? You won't. Very rare. They might be under it on the ground, but they prefer not to eat seeds. And we'll talk about some things you can do in your backyard so you can kind of save some money and not have to buy all that seed too. So, you got one more? This one. All right? Big bird, one of the biggest wingspans. Aha, I heard it. American white pelican, which are very prominent in this area. Love to watch them fly. I know it's a pelican up in the air because I can see those black wings. And I just know it's a pelican. This is called the Pelican Ballet. And we'll talk a little bit about that next week when we talk about behavior of birds. But that's called the Pelican Ballet. So, you can just toss your things here and sit down. And we're going to do a real quick view of why we have trouble with birds. And then Cindy's going to do a review. We're going to make this real fast because it's really short as we go along. We talked about the 300,000 birds, and we're losing birds 1 in every 4. It's 389 bird species on the brink in the United States. That means if we can't keep those birds in a safe place and keep them well, we'll lose those birds and never see them again. Why are birds important to us? Well, first of all, they're the canary in the bird cage. And some of you are too young to understand what that is. But before we had technology, when a coal miner would go into a mine, they would put a canary, literally a live bird, in a cage and carry it in the mine and hope that it stayed alive, because if it stayed alive, they stayed alive. If it died, they knew they had to get out of there right away. There was something bad happening. So our birds tell us in the environment. Our birds told us about West Nile virus, because one year when we did the Christmas bird count, we had almost no crows, no blue jays, no hawks, and we couldn't figure out why. And we discovered that West Nile virus was rampant. So they do things like that for us. So there's a lot of science involved in birding as well. So about 2/3 of the birds in America are at risk, United States and Canada. One of the things that causes that change is climate change. Temperature's rising. So the birds now tend, when the temperature rises, to migrate further north. That's called upsloping. And they migrate further north because they can't find the habitat they want where they used to go to breed, because the heat and the temperatures have changed that habitat. So now they have to go further north. Will they find what they want when they go further north? Maybe, maybe not. There are many birds that breed in the Arctic. What happens when the water temperatures rise and the ice melts? Will they be able to breed in the Arctic? Will they be able to adapt and breed on a south slope rather than an upslope? So another thing that you might have noticed if you enjoy birds is that the migratory time has changed. And that's because of climate too. You know, it used to be like, I'm expecting my first robin in March, but you might see that flock of robins in February, because now it's warming. Okay, so that changes. And what does that do? Here's a big word for you. It's called phenological change. And this means if this bird normally migrates at a certain time of the year and lands in a certain place, the habitat is all perfect, there's plenty of good food for that bird to eat, and all is well. But if that temperature has changed, the climate has changed, and that bird has to go further north to find what it wants, or it goes where it normally would migrate, and the insects are all gone because they came out earlier, and now that bird doesn't have any food to eat. Those are called phenological changes. And so that bird may lose, but now it has to upslope. It has to go further and search for that food on there. Water levels rising change the habitat. Severe storms and drought change the habitat of birds, change the availability of resources for the birds. And those severe storms, there are always birds that get thrown off track in a hurricane or a tornado. But the severity of that hurricanes have increased, so you're finding more and more not off-track birds, but dead birds. And last but least, we just need to be ready for those changes and know what we can do. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Cindy's got a few other little things to share with you about why we're having trouble with birds.
Probably one of the biggest things is the loss of habitat. We farm fence line to farm fence line today, and also the chemicals have made quite a difference in our everyday life as well. And I was going to mention about a habitat loss down by Rochester. The city is just expanding exponentially, of course. And there was some land just to the southwest of Rochester, and it was privately owned, and it wasn't a wetland or anything, just land that had a lot of tall trees. And it turned out that it had kind of turned into a rookery for the great blue herons. And the community tried to band together and save that property for the blue birds, but it went by the trees were cut down, you know, because it was privately owned, and he wouldn't sell to them because it was going to be developed. So that's a big thing where the fringes and, you know, where habitat loss is really noticeable. So I guess I can talk about my program a little bit.
Well, let's do that. Let me give one more quick one. Give them two more things in trouble with birds. And then we're going to set up, we're going to do the bluebirds. I'll be real quick about it. Also, concrete cities, pavements and all of that, so there's no green space. That's another trouble with birds. But the other two are wind turbines, which are wonderful. I love wind turbines. About 700,000 to 1 million birds fly in and die with a wind turbine every year. And progress, you know, with the turbines. So fortunately, they worked with the American Bird Conservancy, and they have come to the conclusion, and they started, maybe 5-6 years ago, when they're placing those new turbines, they don't place them in a migratory path, or they get as far away from the migratory path as they can. And that saved a lot of birds. The other one is windows. Anybody ever have a bird hit a window at your house? Yeah. When I stunned it, might have killed it. So the birds see a reflection in that window, and they just fly full speed right into it. They can't distinguish that there's a window there. They just think it's more of where they've been on there. And that's a really major, major problem. You know, cats, feral cats are a problem too. But windows, so a really good example, again, this is the stadium, right? When they built the stadium, there were 1 million birding organizations that said put up bird-proof windows. But they didn't. So the first year that stadium was open, they were finding 100, 150 birds during migration dead around the stadium. They've since done some work that they're trying to solve that issue. And they're mostly warblers and small songbirds. I mean, that's gorgeous, isn't it? A reflection of the city. Look at this. Oh, that's a reflection of the sunset. When do birds migrate?
Night.
Mostly in the evening. And so they were all flying into that, thinking they were safe on there. So those are the troubles with birds. We're going to address those a little bit later. Cindy's got some bluebird success stories to share with you.
Good evening. I won't keep us too long. I belong to the Bluebird Project of Minnesota. We used to be called the Bluebird Recovery Project of Minnesota. My organization started in the 1970s, and I'm sure it was as a result of all of the bird counts, and they were noticing that there was a shortage of bluebirds. So groups got together and joined in with the Audubon Society. So that was about 1978 that they joined into the Audubon Society and became the Bluebird Project, Recovery Project of Minnesota. And in 2018, we broke away and we became our own group. Just this last year, we changed the name of the group from Recovery Project to the Bluebird Program of Minnesota, because the bluebirds have made a rebound. And the reason that they've made a rebound is the groups that I work with, we set up bluebird trails because bluebirds are cavity nesting birds. They have to have a home given for them unless they can find a tree. And so it looks like this group is a bunch of elementary school students, and they are monitoring this bluebird house. And so we have a couple photos of the female is at the top and the male is at the bottom. And the eastern bluebird is found throughout the eastern half of the United States and Canada. They migrate each spring and fall to and from the southern states, Missouri, Texas, Minnesota, Canada, to lay their nests and raise their chicks before migrating south. I've been doing my bluebird trail out at Camden State Park for 5 years. And the first year, I had no bluebirds, nothing nested. There had been terrible weather in their migration, and a lot more, hundreds and thousands of the bluebirds died. So the question is, why do we intervene in the lives of bluebirds? Well, we know that they're beautiful creatures and deserve to continue to exist. Before our assistance, they began to diminish, mainly due to the loss of nesting sites. Not a lot of groves have old trees that are falling down anymore. And so what this group did is people devised appropriate or proper houses for them. So I have 3 different types of bluebird houses, and I monitor my nests every week. And if a predatory bird gets into that nest, I clean it out and throw away the nesting material and excuse me, and then hopefully a bluebird will decide to put a nest in. Anyone who installs a box participates in monitoring activities is called a volunteer, a citizen scientist. And that's what I do. I'm also a master naturalist. And because I live out here where they're in the western part of Minnesota, there's not a lot of groups that I can get together with for my 40 hours of volunteer work every year to stay as a master naturalist. So I do this on my own. And I monitor every nest. I have 27 nests that I watch every week. And I know what is going on in the nest. I have a lot of problems with sparrows getting into and wrens, house wrens. So I just move my nest every year and just experiment to see what will work. Now last year I was kind of happy with some of the choices that I made, so I think I'll put them exactly back in the same area. What they like is like pasture land. So something that is kept short, mowed. So like golf courses work well, but you have to find the right golf course that'll let you put your bluebird house up there. And so this is what a bluebird nest looks like. They take grasses and they weave them in a circle. And it's not a lot of grass. It's just a little. Sometimes the bottom is not covered. And usually, with the first nest, they will nest twice a season. They can nest. But they won't necessarily nest in the same place, so it's just a guess. But I have had success with 2 nestings in my trail. And I've even had pink eggs, which is very rare. And so they lay 1 egg a day, and you can see the 5 eggs, and then it looks like there's 5 chicks in the nest. The parents come and feed them bugs, and they are in the nest for about 14 days after they have hatched, and then they fledge. And I very seldom see my birds after they've flown, because I really, at the state park, there's no fences. You know, they have to find a place to go to a tree. But I monitor my nest every week, and usually I have tree swallows that will nest along with, and they're compatible. They won't fight. They will dive after you, though, if you get too close to their nest. I've never been actually poked by one, but they chirp at you and click at you, and they will dive at you. But otherwise, I monitored the tree swallow nest just as the same. I've only had 1 cowbird that nested an egg in one of my nests. House wrens, I try to keep them away from trees. That's the main thing. I've not had any black-capped chickadees either build nests. They build with lichen. And I pair my nests. They're usually about 15, 20 feet away from one another. And now we're getting a little bit more scientific with the different type of setups that people can do with wire, and that's to keep predator birds out. They keep that opening small enough so that just the bluebird will come in. And so here's a house sparrow as a predator, a cat, paper wasps. So on my house here, let's see if I can get it apart. What you do is you rub soap in the top, and that keeps them from nesting inside, because it's not fun when you open up a nest box and you've got a wasp nest. So I'm checking. And what I do, let's see, I've got this PVC has been painted brown on the inside and then stained on the inside, stained on the outside, so it looks like a tree. And I put a vanilla air freshener in here, and that's to keep the blowflies out of the nest, because they will suffocate the baby birds. And that has proved very successful. So that's one of the things that we've kind of developed, in the bluebird group. The blowflies, the buffalo gnats, snakes even climb up those poles and invade. So we have different types of baffles that they have come up with. The latest thing, I kind of call them spoofers, but they have something that will keep predator birds away. And then there's a sparrow guard on the other bluebird house. I've got an attachment that goes on here, and it's a piece of wood that goes in front to keep the bigger birds away from the nest. So you can use soap or Vaseline on the nest box ceiling. I do the fragrance in every bird's nest that I have. And that's just that's in a Peterson bluebird house. What I've done with mine is I've used thumbtacks to hang them up inside. And so this is a Peterson bluebird house with a bluebird nest. We keep track of how many eggs are laid, how many hatch, how many fledge. Keeping track of all species nesting in your boxes, bluebirds. I don't ever have tufted titmouse, or I have tree swallows. I've not had chickadees, and wrens, I have had them occasionally, and then house sparrows. I don't have those so much as the wrens. So we keep a weekly log. Then we send that I send it into the Bluebird group, but they send it to the Audubon Society, and I think, let me think if I can, it's, what's the name of the,
ABC, American Bird Conservancy?
well, it begins with a C, out east.
Oh, Cornell.
Cornell University, they are the ones that keep track of all the data. So, monitoring results will help determine if we need to move nest boxes due to competition from other species or overgrown habitat. So you don't want to put a bluebird house in like the first slide there. You want a mowed area. So that's what I choose along the trail where it's mowed. And then I always face my birdhouses to the southeast, but you can face them to the northwest too. And then it's not a good idea to have a double birdhouse together because of the competition. So monitoring results should also be reported to our state bluebird organization, and then they send it in to the trackers like the Audubon Society and Cornell University. And so you're welcome to come up here and look at my 3 different bird houses. And then in here we've set up some nests so that if you have a bird house, you can identify what kind of bird by the nesting materials has set up shop. And you're welcome to any materials that I have. And
We've got, over here, I've got a bone, I've got nests, and I've got feathers. We'll talk more about those next week when we talk about identifying birds. But touchy-feel is kind of fun with those. And I brought in a few of my birding books. So you are welcome to borrow one if you want. If you take it home, bring it back to the next event on a Saturday morning, or drop it off at the Y for Sue, but you're more than welcome to borrow them. And this is just a sampling of field guides and other birds. So thank you for being here. And I think, what is it, February 21st?
I think that's what you said.
Yeah, is the next one. We're going to talk about migration. We're going to do a birding scavenger hunt. We're going to talk about bird behavior and more about bird habitat. So you can get,
January or February?
or January. No, February. It's 1 month.
Oh,
1 month.
1 month.
And the next 3 are on Saturday mornings, late, like 10 o'clock or something like that. So you can sleep in. Maybe you can put the coffee on for you when you get here. But then the 3rd program, we're actually going to talk about the window issue, and we're going to tape up some library windows and show you how you can do that at home on your big patio doors. And the 4th one is a bird walk out at SMSU. So enjoy. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you for coming.